Hey guys, my name is Sam.
I'm Belize, and this is Heartbreaker Films. Today we have an episode for you on 10 Things I Hate About You. I was actually realizing last night as I was watching this that this is probably one of my top romantic movies, romantic comedies. How many times have you seen this movie, Sam?
I, in answer to your question, I've probably seen it maybe twice, three times. But but can I give it a guess as to why this is probably one of your top romantic comedies?
Yes, please, yeah.
If what you said, okay, you know how you had a revelation during A Walk to Remember about my love languages? Patrick Verona is everything you've ever wanted in a man. Like, all I could think to myself the whole movie was like, I love you, baby, and how you would die. Like,
When I said that about Walk to Remember, I thought, oh, for sure, she knows that this is her love language. I'm about to say something that's such a given. And you were so shocked, and you texted me later, and you're like, I'm still thinking about that. Now I see why that was your reaction, because I never thought about it that way. But yeah, you're so right. Oh my gosh.
yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, non-binary human beings, Belize texts me and she's like, Sam, 2 minutes into the movie, I had a revelation and I started crying. I can't wait for tomorrow's conversation.
Yeah, I did. And that's why I wanted to ask actually how many times you've seen it, because I feel like if you see it enough times, it might be a given. But if you've only seen it once or twice, there are some more of the dots that are left behind that you don't connect. So I will say it, but first I want to hear your version of what the log line would be, if that's okay.
This is Sam's version of the log line. Log line for 10 things I hate about you. Kat and Bianca Stratford are these very well-known girls in the school. Bianca is Miss Little Popularity. Kat is polar opposite. She's considered the shrew, if you will. Their father is notoriously strict with the girls and has a rule that they cannot date, that he amends. Bianca can begin dating if her older sister, Kat, starts dating as well. So a plan is set in motion by the many suitors obsessed with Bianca. Cameron is a new student at the school who becomes friends with Michael, and he falls in love with Bianca. He gets a plan that he has no money, so he goes and approaches the very rich and narcissistic Joey, who also is in love with Bianca, to pay for them to find a suitor for Katerina. That is when Patrick Verona enters into the play. Joey starts paying Patrick Verona, the notorious like bad boy of the school, with like all these like conspiracy theories about his like many conquests in life, to pursue Katerina. In his pursuit, he becomes very in love with her, and a love triangle is set in motion that all escalates to the prom. Wait, you logline, you logline.
The whole thing, I mean,
Logline, not summarize. I feel like I summarized.
I'm not good at log lining though. I'm good at summarizing. I'm not good at log lining because I feel like the log line is that two two sisters that don't see eye to eye end up reconciling and finding love is what I would say.
That's perfect.
So I will ask you one more question before I say what my revelation is, and I promise it has to lead up in this way. What do you know of the relationship between Joey and Kat?
I think Kat lost her virginity to Joey when she was a freshman. And like he treated her like garbage afterwards, and that's what makes her a shrew.
Right, exactly. So that's what we learn, right? We learn that towards the end when she tells Bianca, she's like, we dated for a month in ninth grade. And she says it without saying it that they had sex. And that's why that's why she's been trying to protect Bianca. So I've seen this movie a lot of times. The last time I saw it was within this past month. So I'm not going to pretend that I haven't had the opportunity to overanalyze it a lot. And so the moment that we start the movie, we're introduced to Kat with Bad Reputation. The song plays on her stereo and she pulls up
Yeah.
and she pulls up to a car of girls next to her. So another time I was watching it, in my mind, I basically had started to formulate theories, and there was the car of girls next to her looking at her, and in my eyes, that was her old friend group that she's no longer a part of. Like that's how I would interpret it, at least. That's like some of what she's lost. because we do know also from something that Bianca tells Cameron at one point is that Kat used to be cool.
She used to be really popular.
Yeah, she used to be really popular. She used to have a lot of friends, and then that just kind of changed. And we don't know why right away. The next thing we see besides the car is Kat pulling down a poster to the prom. And so what I realized in that moment, which I never realized, we see her pull down multiple dance posters throughout the movie. And I always thought, oh, that's just her trying to, that's because she hates anything that has to do with popularity or clicks or anything like that. And the dance represents that, right? Especially prom represents that. So that's why she hates it. But I thought into it a little bit more last night.
Oh my gosh.
And this is, so I'm gonna talk really slowly to make sure I say everything that came across in my thoughts. We know that she, and I don't know if this is true or not, but we know that she lost her virginity to Joey. In my eyes, it's that they went to prom or they went to a dance, and that night was when she lost her virginity to him, because there is a certain known fact around dances or prom that is the night that people lose virginity. And that is why she, at one point, literally when she talks to her friend, calls it an antiquated mating ritual. And that's what she's referring to. So the reason why she hates the dance or anything to have it to do with the dance is because that's what turned her life upside down. That's when she chose to have sex with him. And then after that, she didn't want to anymore because she did it because she felt the pressure of being popular and being friends and everything like that. And really quick side note, I'm pretty sure she was a cheerleader, because when she was telling Bianca that the reason why no one knew that her and Joey dated is because she threatened to tell the cheerleading squad how small his is. And I feel like you would only do that if you're actually friends with the cheerleading squad and actually on the team. But that's like a very short divergent. Anyway, the reason why I was crying is because when she is asked by Patrick to go to the dance and she gets all suspicious, if you're watching it, you might think that she's getting suspicious because she's like, what's in it for you? And she's maybe getting suspicious about the idea that like someone's that he's being paid or something like that. No, she's suspicious because she thinks that Patrick wants to have sex with her. And that's what Patrick is implying, that they go to prom and then they have sex afterwards. And that's why she's like, what's in it for you? Like, why do you want to go? Why are you pushing this? Like, no, I don't want to go. Because to her, she's like, absolutely not. I'm not doing that again. I don't feel comfortable. So the fact that she goes to prom, she only goes for Bianca because she wants Bianca to go and have a good time. And so the fact that she's willing to go to the one place that represents all this for her, and then there she finds out that Patrick was literally being paid by the one guy who ruined her life. It just like, it made me so sad, because I was like, oh my gosh, like that's just so terrible that this just ruined, that now both men are ruined kind of thing. And oh my God. And so that's why also it's such a big deal, because the entire time that Joey is doing all these things, if you see him interact with Bianca, most of the time he interacts with Kat first. He'll go to Kat, when he like goes to pick up Bianca in the car, first he goes and like bugs Kat. And then same thing at the party, like he goes after Kat first. He's like, ooh, like dance for me and stuff like that, and trying to flirt with her because he doesn't love Bianca. He's just trying to get Bianca to annoy Kat.
I think there's an inherent concept of power for men, especially with virgins. Like he says at the very beginning, like it kind of made me like scowl a little bit internally, where he was like, oh, look at the new virgins on the scene. Like literally they say the word virgin when they're like scouting out Bianca. This man's like more like sin, his like Achilles heel, if you will, is his narcissism and his pride. And so like he needs to have the validation of knowing that he can get under Kat's skin. At one point, Patrick Verona asks Katerina, like very to her face, and says, why do you let him get to you? Because you're only giving people that power over you. If I don't care about you, if I don't care, it's not, hate is not caring. Hate is the opposite. Hate is like a true like possession of self, you know? And so it's interesting, like he, like regardless of whether or not she likes him, he still has power over her. Are you a Shakespeare fan?
Oh yeah.
Then do you know the original show? Do you know the original text material of The Taming of the Shrew? This is an adaptation of The Taming of the Shrew, written by William Shakespeare, obviously. and how you feel about this being adaptation.
I don't know the original text that well. I read it in high school. I don't remember it, but I do know that it was based off of it, and of course it is clear with certain lines actually being kept in the script from the original play. Especially, I think one of the first ones is Cameron going like, "I burn, I pine" over Bianca, and it's great.
This is probably my favorite Shakespeare adaptation. I believe they modernized the source material flawlessly. Like the concept of having like a royal court turn into high school is brilliant. The idea of cliques and alliances, enemies, friends, the moment that people can get backstabbed and betrayed, it all lends itself to the new story perfectly. Like Chastity turning her back on Bianca to be with Joey, flawless. She's just a bad friend. I love the fact that they keep some of the dialogue from the actual show, but they do it in such a manner that it's like an inside joke. Like they do it with Patrick in the woodshop scene, and Patrick is just like, "Why don't talk to me like that?" I love the fact that Katarina's best friend is also obsessed with Shakespeare, and they bring in the actual idea of William Shakespeare into the show.
Another thing that they took from the play that was inspired by it, I would feel, is a lot of the physical comedy that is in this movie that you don't see as much in romantic comedies. Is like that they have the arrow that Bianca accidentally shoots at the teacher, or the bike that like flies off into the field and he topples over. There's a lot of different moments that are just really, really fun additions to the overall thing. That was definitely a thing that Shakespeare did a lot.
My favorite part of the whole film is the way we open in that teacher's office, and she's just like weird with the students, and they all look at her like, what? Like, am I in an office right now? Like, what? Like, you automatically know from the very opening of the film that this is going to be an absurdist comedy. This is going to be over the top. The dad putting on the belly. Like, the next time you smile at a boy or kiss a boy, I want you to think about wearing this under your halter top. So good. Oh, and the iconic moment of Kat on the table when it's like, Biggie, 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 can't you see?
I was thinking about how they wrote Michael's situation in a way that makes a lot of sense, because he did have the whole audio visual, which I love that joke that he's like, "Oh, I'm glad I didn't bring some audio visual nerd." And he's like, "Yeah, yeah," and then pushes away like, "Michael." I love that note, but I think they made it work really well that the time that he's being excluded from his group of friends is when Cameron comes into his life, because otherwise you would think, why are you so invested in this newcomer's infatuation enough to help him and do all these things? It's because right now he has no other friends. And that's why it works out so well, because not only does that facilitate him becoming friends with Cameron, it also facilitates that they would have a party at the group's house. And in this way, this is a party where it's not just popular kids there, it's everyone, because he can formulate it so that he invites everyone. And so I feel like that all is it's just designed so well to all fit into each other and to make sense. So you don't question anyone's motives or how anyone got to where they are.
A quick anecdote of visual like aspect of this film. Last time we spoke, you mentioned that this is a classic, or at least in the intro video for this channel, you mentioned that this film would be considered a classic. I think one of the reasons it would be considered such a thing is that moment where Michael throws the flyers into the stairwell. That was stunning visual language. That was not a rom-com. That was filmmaking at its finest. Like that rotation down the stairs with the song. Like, I remember that from my adolescence.
So they have a really great soundtrack, and then they have a lot of really great moments that are shot very cinematically. So I feel like that's also what makes it really easy in our brains to remember those moments and those big beats for those characters. Like they have the slow pull in on Cameron when he realizes that Bianca betrayed him and was doing all this to get Joey.
The final sequence of the band on top of the school, like, where are these kids going to school? It is the most stunning campus I've ever seen in my entire life. Like the beautiful, like, I feel like that's the most iconic end sequence of my life, and it's just a band on a roof. The date between Patrick and Kat is so unique and beautiful. And I will say this, that paintball scene is my dream date ever. Just like super fun, and them kissing with the paint everywhere.
Yeah, that was a great first kiss. I think they did that really well in a way where it wasn't, the dramatic going around them, slow music. It's just, nope, they're just making out. We're just going to pull it on the moment because we're not going to, that's it.
It makes it sweeter almost. It makes it much more tender. Because exactly what you said, we don't zoom in, we're zooming out. It's like, let them be. I also want to say something to what you said about the soundtrack thing. I think the concept of really influential music used to tell the story becomes very popular in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, like pre 2005.
Essentially, the transition from when Bianca and Kat reconcile isn't even shown. All is shown is Kat looking at Bianca through the window, and the song lyrics is literally, I've been acting like a child. And it's kind of, you just, from there you get it. And then the next scene, they're going to the prom suddenly, and we don't see the makeup. We don't see her reach out to Patrick. We don't see any of that. It's like, it's just all explained through that song in that moment.
I think overall, the editing in this film is so crisp. Like what you said, like there's not a single scene in this movie that's gratuitous. Let's go into the characters. Who are our major players?
Kat, Joey, and Patrick, in my opinion, because that's the love triangle that I view it as, more so than for Bianca, Cameron, and Joey.
100% I agree. Why? Because Bianca's story finds its end like 20, 30 minutes prior to the ending of the film. Bianca, Cameron, Michael don't change. And Patrick Verona, I think, is the essence of the whole film. There are conspiracy theories about this teenage boy.
I agree with you. I don't really know what else to say about Michael and Cameron other than that Cameron just has a really pure heart and is really going for it, and I love it. I love that nothing stands in his way, that he'll learn French for her and everything like that. Bianca, I'm probably going to say something that might get a few haters out there. Her love isn't pure for Cameron. I was watching it last night and I thought about it again. When he's talking to her in the car and calling her out, she kisses him because he calls her beautiful. He literally starts to say, just because you're beautiful doesn't mean you can go around like messing with people, toying with people's hearts, whatever. But she kisses him because she calls her beautiful. The reason why she's not into Joey is because Joey's too into himself. She just wants a boy that's going to admire her and her beauty, and Cameron can do that.
I am shell-shocked by what you just said about Cameron. Miss the flaw of the nice guy. Cameron, to me, is the prototype of what is wrong with the nice guy character. He's the one that conspires, I must have her. He's just as bad as Joey, except that he doesn't have a self-centered sense of being. But he's just as bad as Joey. I think he and Bianca are perfect for each other because they're both valuing the wrong things in a person. He doesn't know anything about Bianca. They have nothing in common. Everything that he knows about Bianca is school related and that she doesn't even like, and that he forces upon himself. He just thinks that she's pretty. And then when she doesn't want to be with him because she wants to be with someone else, he gets mad at her. He gets really volatilely mad at her because he thinks that he is in the right, that he is somehow deserving of her. Because I did all these things for you, and you don't want to even give me the time of day because you're beautiful. That's their whole thing. There is no purity in the relationship.
I see what you mean by the nice guy. The reason why, to me, this isn't, yes, he is a nice guy and he fits that trope in some ways. I will, however, say that I felt his anger and upsetness towards her to be actually validated because they plotted together. Yes, he did all these crazy things. Bianca knew. Bianca helped him and literally took him into her sister's room, went through her underwear with him. Bianca knew this whole time. And the reality is that Kat doesn't know what Cameron and Bianca did. If she knew, she would have been heartbroken. Bianca knew all along, and she used Cameron and let Cameron believe that they were going to go sailing and everything like that and go on dates just so that she could actually go out with Joey. So I think he's completely validated in being upset because he was clear the whole time that he asked her out, all these things. It's not like that situation where usually in a nice guy trope, it's that they're your friend and then they expect something out of you, or they get upset and they make it all about themselves. But it's one of those things where it's yeah, he's going to get upset and make it about himself because in this situation, she's not hurt. She's the one who hurt him.
Okay. I concede. I concede to the battle. I let it. I give it to you. I still believe that this character is entitled to a woman that he does not possess, and that no one is anyone's property. And then I do think that if Kat were to walk away and be like, Patrick, I want nothing to do with you, after everything that he's done for her, he would respect it. Bianca is basically the ingenue of the story. She is the sexual object. She is the agent of conflict.
I think I already went into Kat as much as I'm going to go into her.
Yeah, she's our protagonist, our main character, and the woman that has the most amount of change throughout the entire picture. We have Joey, our regular narcissist, who is like the upper class of, if you will, like the cool guy, just that typical guy you would see in high school who's like full of himself, super attractive, really rich, has no consequences, and therefore will receive all the consequences by the end. Michael. He's a minor character, and he's basically, I think he's like I think if this was an actual Shakespearean play, he would be the audience conduit. You know how oftentimes in Shakespeare they break and like tell to the audience like, and they're fair Verona, you know what I mean? Like, I think he would have been that character who would like turn to the audience and is like, this is what's going on. And then we have Patrick Verona. Patrick Verona is our like resident rogue, complete opposite of Joey. He's on the outskirts of society. I like the fact that we don't see his bedroom, but we see everything else about him. Like, we know the least about him, but also like we get the most glimpses into his world as we do with Katerina. And I like the fact that as he's falling for Kat, he reveals himself only to her.
One point that I do want to bring up is that he pays someone for the I Love You Baby. So I just love that he's using some of the money he got for that before he even uses it for the guitar.
I will say, I like the fact that you picked up on that, because in general, all the money he earns is to her. You know, they went on like a lot of dates. You know what I mean? He took her to the party, brought her home. Like, he didn't kiss her. And he says the next time around, he was like, "Oh, what did you do to her? Like, she's so mad." He's like, anything that would have happened, she wouldn't have remembered. So a part of me is super conflicted because like I can't forgive the fact that he was getting paid to like be near this girl.
I understand, and I know that, like, of course it seems so bad. It's like, how do you come back from that kind of thing? It's so funny to me that that's so conflicting to you, yet in A Walk to Remember you have no problem with how he acts, which in my eyes is 10 times if not 100 times worse than the place that he comes back from. But for me, I think the reason why I kind of brush it off so fast is because he right away, we can see, cares for her and is not just doing it for the money, because their first date, she gets super trash and keeps leaving him. Essentially, he already got paid and did his job because he brought her to the party. And he doesn't need to do it. He already got a congratulations from Joey. Joey's like, how'd you get her to act normal and everything like that. He doesn't need to then make sure that she's not getting too drunk. He literally follows her around. He's like, let me drink this one, or that sort of thing. And he doesn't kiss her because he's a gentleman. And I know that for some people, like, yeah, it's the bare minimum to make sure that she's good with a concussion, but he was there for her before she even got to that point. So since it's from the beginning of their first date that he's showing this care for her, that's why, to me, I'm like, I'm okay with it. I'm not saying it's a great start, of course. I wouldn't go telling people that as our story.
How did you two meet? Oh, okay, well, what happened was kind of funny. She was a bitch, and I needed cash, and so I like got paid by this douchebag who I guess you two had, like, I don't know. That's your personal history, sweetheart. I started getting paid to, like, you know, fuck her on the low, so get this whole thing. And now we're getting married.
The fact that, like, someone like that who cares about his appearance or whatever would do that grand gesture speaks a lot to me. Like, Cameron and Michael give him the idea, but they're not there to help him orchestrate it, which is kind of great because they're there to orchestrate like literally everything else. But for the big grand gesture, it's all him on his own.
That is an iconic beat. The I Love You Baby on the bleachers with the marching band. It's not just, it's all of it. The second I saw that, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Right. So, like, more likely than not, he's spending his own money on top of the money he's getting from Joey for Kat. aside from the obvious of you see the difference in how Bianca and Kat's rooms are decorated, a big item that comes up in conversation that I paid a bit more attention to last night was the pearl necklace from the mother. And right away we see that Bianca's just wearing it and Kat's really upset. When we see Kat at Club Skunk, she is wearing silver, like fake looking pearls. Throughout the rest of the movie, she is wearing fake pearl necklaces. She wears the silver one, and then for a majority of it, she wears a small little one that has like a little icon on it. So the costume designer did a really good job of making sure that she's always wearing some sort of necklace. Usually it was the same one after besides the silver one, it's that little small beaded one, until she actually gets to wear the pearl necklace to prom, which represents that they made up and they talked, and that's why she now gets to wear the pearl necklace to prom, is because we don't see the scene of Bianca and Kat making up, but we see it visually because Kat now has the necklace. And she's very protective of her sister. The entire film, when she gets drunk at the party, anything like that, it's because she's worried about that her sister's gonna end up like her, but then is too embarrassed to tell her sister her situation.
Her sister? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. If there's like a villain in this story, I know it's Joey, I guess. I hate Bianca. I hate her. I hate her so much. I think she's such a mean person. Her sister opens up. Katerina opens up and like tells her what happened with Joey. And then A, she gets mad that she didn't tell her beforehand. And then B, she has the audacity to say, what, you think I'm gonna make the same mistakes as you? And just, I don't see a single thing about this girl that is at all a good quality other than that she's pretty. She goes through her sister's underwear drawer with some strange guy and then has the audacity to say, no, a girl's room is very private. The only redeemable thing is when she punches Joey.
I almost feel like she has the pretty girl complex of she gets away with doing a lot just because she's pretty. And the only reason why her and Kat don't have a bigger falling out is because she makes it all about how Kat was controlling her. And it's like, are we going to ignore that in the majority of the film you're trying to control Kat? Another point I do want to talk about is the representation of violence in this movie. I think it's very interesting.
Ooh.
So the way that we see Kat and Bianca defend themselves is through actual physical attack. And I feel like for that time period, it makes a lot of sense that that's how it would be shown. Whereas now we probably could not get away with that same thing. But during that time period, I feel like it speaks volumes that these women that are independent and when we finally do see Bianca be more like Kat, it's through her beating up Joey. And there's literally a conversation with the dad and Kat later, and Kat's like, oh, are you worried I'm rubbing off on her? And it's just one of those things where it's like when Kat changes, the main change in her, aside from the hair and the music and stuff like that, is that she's crashing into Joey's car, or, you know, someone tried groping her in the lunchroom and she attacks them and that sort of thing. And she's physically defending herself. I just really love that. I just really love that that's part of the strength of their characters, is that they are defending themselves that way. I know that obviously violence is not the right message nowadays, but back then for 1999, that makes a lot of sense. It's a necessary thing to show that, and to show that that's something that women should aspire to, not literally physical violence, but to just standing up to themselves and defending themselves towards men that treat them that way and treat them like they're less than or like they're objects.
I feel like there's a trope that I see in this film, which is funny because it's a Shakespearean play. So obviously this is the text material, the source material of this is very dated. However, there is something, when we start dissecting more of like the 90s rom-com or the romantic film in general, there is a trope that I find to be so odd that kind of dissipates once we start getting to like 2007, 2008 romance. But the idea of a contest, of a competition, of an agreement, of something between men that is agreed upon in order for one of them to either win the girl, trick the girl, manipulate the girl, get the girl. It's like a trope that I don't understand, of like men making deals as if women are property.
And I think it's one of those things where I think it's used as a device of, how do we explain why this person is so motivated to like someone? Oh, it must be a bet.
Let's talk about the watchability. Do you think this is a watchable film? Do you think it's something you can come back to in years?
100%. I think 10 out of 10. This is one of my top movies in terms of watchability that you can come back to. I think it's a classic of our generation.
If you could have made this movie now, would you have changed anything about it?
I really like the way this movie is done. I don't think I would want to touch it. I don't think this is one of the movies I'd want to redo.
Homegirl, I'm right there with you. I made like an Instagram story about like the speech of the teacher. By the way, the teacher is like a really great character. Very woke for the time period, you know, funny, comedic relief. Um, is constantly threatening Joey that he's gonna get his ass whooped, and when it finally happens, he just can't contain his happiness. I think I have to agree. I can't change anything.